Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tailgate Sermons. And if you didn't see the first episode, go back and watch it, and it explains where I got the name Tailgate Sermons. But we went over or hit kind of a high spot there in John chapter 1. And now we're going to move on to John chapter 2, Jesus' first sign, turning water into wine. And this was his first miracle as he started his ministry. And it took place in Galilee, Cana of Galilee, where at a wedding. And his mother was there, and they run out of wine. And she told, verse 3 says, when the wine ran out, Jesus' mother told him, they don't have any wine. Verse 4 says, what does that have to do with you and me, woman? Jesus asked. My hour has not yet come. And I asked some people the other day that was in my CMA group. Jesus was fully man, and he was fully God. And I wonder, him being fully man, you reckon since this was his first miracle, you think Jesus might have been nervous? And I know that sounds crazy, and the Bible don't say he was nervous. Don't say he wasn't either, but it does say, he knows what we go through. He's been there, so to speak. I mean, the temptations in the desert with the devil, and just all this stuff that we face in life every day. And I don't know. I just got to thinking when I read this the other day that I wonder if he was kind of nervous starting, because he knew what was coming. He knew what starting this ministry meant. He knew the persecution that was coming. He knew that he was going to eventually die on a cross for you and me. And, that's the gospel. He paid the price that we owed that we couldn't pay. And he did know it, and he paid it with his life, with his blood. But so I just wonder if he might have been a little bit nervous. But his mom, being a mom, knew that it was his time. And so the next verse 5, is probably the best advice that you could find in the entire Bible. And it says, do whatever he tells you. His mother told the servants. Do whatever he tells you to do. As long as you do what Jesus tells you to do, it don't matter what anybody else tells you not to do or to do. It don't matter, because as long as you do what Jesus tells you to do, you'll be doing the right thing. And with that said, that's not always easy, and it's not always easy at all. But he goes on. It says, now there were 6 stone water jars that had been set aside for Jewish purification, and each one of them contained about 20 or 30 gallons. Now, these water jars were not potable drinking water. They were probably there for the wedding party, the wedding feast, the people that was coming to wash their hands and feet. And that Jewish purification was more of a spiritual cleansing than a physical one. It basically, you washed your hands and feet, and it was nasty water. Basically, it was water that you washed your hands and feet in. And what I'm assuming, and like I say, the Bible is not clear on this, but there's probably water left in each one of them. Not a lot, but they'd been using it is the reason it was sitting in there. But Jesus tells them to fill those jars to the rim with water. So they filled them to the brim. Then he said to them, now draw some out and take it to the head waiter. And they did. Now, let's think about these servants for a minute. They was fixing to take water, knowing that he's expecting wine. The head waiter, this dude, he probably has the right. Back in them days, that could be reason to get stoned. They'd kill them. That they would try to trick them with water instead of wine. So these servants had to have some faith. They had to be willing to believe what he said, what Mary had told them. They was obedient. they took that huge step of obedience and went out there with this water, knowing that he's expecting wine. And so that when the head waiter tasted the water after it had become wine, he did not know where it came from. Though the servants who had drawn the water knew, he called the groom and told him, "Everyone sets out the fine wine first. After the people are drunk, the inferior. But you have kept the fine wine until now." So most of these wedding parties that went on, all the good stuff come out first. And after the people's, tipsy, buzzed up pretty good, not thinking much about it, then the old rock gut comes out. You know what I mean? And that's what they was expecting, more than likely. And when this fine wine come out, they was impressed. But this was Jesus' first miracle. And the people, like the servants and the disciples, they saw this, and that began the ministry. That Jesus' ministry. They go on, and verse 11 goes on and says, "Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee. He revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum, together with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they stayed there only a few days." And then comes the cleansing of the temple, and we might get into that next week. But just wanted to go over his first miracle there with you as we continue on through the book of John. And I hope you guys have a great week. And or it's Saturday evening right now. I hope you've had a great week, and hope you stay warm next week, because they're calling for some nasty weather to roll in here about Monday, sounds like. But I hope this blesses you and just encourages someone today. And just remember, Jesus loves you, and I'm trying. See ya.